Welcome to Alternatify, the channel where we dare to ask the questions that reshape our understanding of reality. We delve into the intricate tapestry of history, pulling at threads to see what alternative patterns might emerge. Today, we confront a moment that irrevocably altered the course of the 21st century. It's a date etched into the collective memory of a generation, September 11, 2001. For many of us, it's a vivid recollection, a moment frozen in time. I remember exactly where I was, the disbelief, the profound sense of shock. But what if that day, that horrific sequence of events, simply never occurred? What if the planes never hit, the towers never fell, and the Pentagon remained unscathed? It's a thought experiment that feels almost sacrilegious, yet it's one that offers profound insights into the fragility and resilience of our world. This isn't about disrespecting the past or diminishing the immense suffering. Instead, it's an intellectual journey, a speculative exploration into the myriad ways our world might have unfolded differently. We're not just imagining a world without tragedy, we're envisioning a cascade of altered futures. Prepare to dive deep into a reality that never was, a world transformed by the absence of a single devastating event. This is a journey into the heart of alternative history, where every choice, every averted moment, ripples outwards into infinity. Let's explore the world that might have been. To truly grasp the magnitude of 9/11's absence, we must first acknowledge its profound impact on our actual timeline. It was a catalyst, a turning point that accelerated certain trends and abruptly halted others. Its shadow stretched across geopolitics, economics, and even our very social fabric. So if 9/11 never happened, what would be the immediate, tangible differences? The most obvious and perhaps most poignant is the absence of immense human loss. Thousands of lives would not have been extinguished in an instant, and countless families would have been spared unimaginable grief. The emotional scars on a nation, and indeed the world, would simply not exist. The collective trauma, the sense of vulnerability, and the pervasive fear that followed would be replaced by a different, perhaps more optimistic, global outlook. This alone represents a monumental shift in the human experience. Beyond the immediate human cost, consider the psychological landscape. The pervasive sense of insecurity, the constant vigilance, and the redefinition of normal travel would be absent. Air travel, for instance, would likely remain a far less scrutinized and more fluid experience. The very concept of homeland security as we know it might never have taken root. The vast governmental apparatus created in response to 9/11, with its sweeping powers and extensive surveillance, would likely not exist in its current form. This has profound implications for civil liberties. Without 9/11, the war on terror as a global defining conflict would likely never have been declared. The invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq, justified in part by the events of that day, would probably not have occurred. This alone reshapes the entire geopolitical map of the 21st century. Imagine the Middle East without the destabilizing effects of these prolonged conflicts. The rise of extremist groups, often fueled by power vacuums and resentment, might have been significantly curtailed or taken entirely different forms. Regional alliances and rivalries would be fundamentally altered. US foreign policy would likely have remained focused on different priorities. Perhaps a greater emphasis on diplomacy, economic partnerships, or even domestic issues would have prevailed. The global perception of American power and interventionism would be vastly different. The Patriot Act, a landmark piece of legislation that expanded government surveillance powers, would almost certainly not have passed. Debates over privacy versus security would still exist, but the balance would likely be tipped far more towards individual liberties. This would affect every citizen. International cooperation on issues like climate change, global health, or economic development might have taken precedence. Without the unifying yet divisive focus on counterterrorism, nations might have found common ground on other pressing global challenges. The world stage would be less militarized. The economic fallout of 9/11 was substantial, from the immediate disruption of financial markets to the long-term costs of war. In a world where it never happened, these resources would have been allocated differently. Trillions of dollars spent on military campaigns and security infrastructure could have been invested elsewhere. Consider the airline industry. Post 9/11, it faced unprecedented challenges, including increased security costs, reduced passenger numbers, and a fundamental shift in operations. Without this shock, the industry might have continued its pre-2001 trajectory, perhaps focusing more on expansion and innovation. Global trade flows might have been less impacted by security concerns and border restrictions. Supply chains, while still vulnerable to other disruptions, would not have faced the same level of scrutiny and cost increases related to counter-terrorism measures. This could foster greater economic integration. Investment priorities would shift. Instead of pouring resources into defense contractors and security technology, capital might have flowed more freely into emerging technologies, renewable energy, or infrastructure projects. This could have accelerated progress in various sectors. The global economy might have experienced a more stable and predictable growth path. While other recessions and crises would undoubtedly occur, the specific economic shocks directly attributable to 9/11 and its aftermath would be absent. This could lead to different patterns of wealth distribution. The social impact of 9/11 was profound, fostering both unity and division. In its immediate aftermath, there was a powerful sense of national cohesion. However, it also led to increased scrutiny and prejudice against certain communities, particularly those of Middle Eastern and South Asian descent. Without 9/11, the rise of Islamophobia in Western societies might have been significantly less pronounced. While prejudice would still exist, it would lack the powerful catalyzing event that fueled its widespread acceptance and normalization in some circles. Social cohesion might be stronger. The discourse around immigration and national identity would be different. Security concerns often became intertwined with immigration policy post 9/11. In its absence, these debates might have focused more on economic or social integration rather than perceived threats. Cultural expressions from film to literature would reflect a different zeitgeist. The pervasive themes of terrorism, surveillance, and national security that permeated popular culture for 2 decades might be replaced by other narratives. Art would mirror a different reality. The sense of global interconnectedness might have evolved differently. While 9/11 highlighted our shared vulnerability, it also created new divisions. Without it, perhaps a more collaborative and less fearful global community could have emerged, fostering greater understanding. This is where the speculative possibilities truly open up. The immense resources and intellectual capital diverted to security and defense post 9/11 could have been channeled into other areas of scientific and technological endeavor. Imagine the acceleration. Consider renewable energy. Without the geopolitical instability tied to oil-rich regions, the urgency to develop alternative energy sources might have been less immediate. However, the sheer investment capacity freed up could have propelled research and development at an unprecedented pace. Healthcare and medical research could have seen a surge in funding and focus. Breakthroughs in disease prevention, treatment, and even life extension might have arrived sooner. The human ingenuity applied to security could have been applied to saving lives. Space exploration, often seen as a barometer of a society's ambition, might have received renewed attention. Without the distraction of global conflicts, perhaps a new space race, focused on scientific discovery and human expansion, could have captivated the world. Even the development of artificial intelligence and advanced computing might have taken a different path. While these fields were advancing independently, the specific applications and ethical considerations might have been shaped by different societal priorities. Innovation would be less constrained by security. Perhaps the most profound difference in a world without 9/11 is the absence of the human cost. Not just the immediate fatalities, but the ripple effect of grief, trauma, and loss that touched millions. The parents, children, spouses, and friends who lost loved ones would have their lives intact. The first responders, the heroes of that day, would not have faced such unimaginable horrors. Their physical and psychological scars, the long-term health consequences, would simply not exist. Their bravery would be celebrated in different contexts. The collective memory of a generation would be free from that specific searing pain. Instead of a shared trauma, there might be a shared sense of progress, or perhaps a different kind of challenge that united humanity. The emotional landscape of the world would be lighter. This isn't to say that a world without 9/11 would be free of tragedy or conflict. Human history is replete with both. But this particular wound, this specific scar on the global psyche, would be absent. It's a profound thought, almost too vast to fully comprehend. Imagine the conversations that would never have happened, the tears that would never have been shed, the lives that would have continued their ordinary, extraordinary paths. It's a world where a specific kind of darkness never descended, allowing other lights to shine. Of course, history is rarely a straight line. Some might argue that if 9/11 hadn't happened, another significant event, perhaps a different kind of attack, might have occurred. The underlying tensions and extremist ideologies might have found another outlet. Perhaps a less devastating attack, or one attributed to a different group, could have taken place. The response might have been localized, less global in scope, and without the same profound geopolitical ramifications. The world would still be complex, but differently so. We can look to other moments in history where a major event was narrowly averted. The Cuban Missile Crisis, for example, brought the world to the brink. Had it escalated, our reality would be unrecognizable. The absence of 9/11 is a similar, though different, kind of averted catastrophe. Alternative history often explores these branching paths. What if the Archduke Ferdinand's driver had taken a different turn? What if Hitler had been accepted into art school? These seemingly small changes can lead to monumental shifts, and 9/11 is no exception. The beauty of alternative history lies in its ability to illuminate the present by imagining a different past. It forces us to consider the contingency of events, the delicate balance of forces that shape our world. It's a powerful tool for understanding. As we return from this journey into the world that never was, it's natural to feel a sense of wistfulness. To imagine a world spared such immense suffering, a world where resources were channeled differently, where fear was less pervasive. It's a compelling vision. But we must also acknowledge the reality of the world we inhabit. 9/11 did happen. It shaped us, for better or worse, in ways we are still grappling with. It forced us to confront difficult truths about security, freedom, and the nature of conflict. This exercise isn't about regret, but about understanding. It's about appreciating the profound impact of historical events and recognizing the countless variables that shape our collective destiny. Every moment, every decision creates the future. So, what are your thoughts on this alternative reality? How do you think our world would truly be different if 9/11 had never happened? The possibilities are endless, and your insights are invaluable. Please share your perspectives in the comments below. Let's continue this fascinating discussion. If you enjoyed this deep dive into alternative history, give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to Alternatify for more thought-provoking explorations of what if. Until next time, keep questioning, keep imagining,